Well, welcome back, everyone. Very special day. I went all out. I took some pain meds so I could do this. I even put on a nice gothic shirt. I even changed my earrings. Ugh. No, it's been a while since I made a video. What we got playing in the background is this by the Bolshoi. Excuse me a minute. I need to turn that down. It's a bit louder than I thought. Okay, so yeah, it's the Bolshoi, nice gothic rock band from the 80s, an album called Friends. Now, my favorite songs on here are Away, Modern Man, Sunday Morning, Looking for a Life to Lose, Books on the Bonfire. Fat and Jealous is kind of fun. And Waspy is really super trippy. This song is called Romeo and Clover. So this one, which you should be tipped off by whatever I choose to make as the cover photo and title and all that. Uniformity. This topic came up in an email that was sent to me with a family member who's very Republican, and I just thought that, you know, like, this ties into philosophy stuff, and maybe I should make a playlist of my philosophy stuff, but I figured not do that because that's the main point of what I do is logic, critical thinking, philosophy, existentialism, nihilism, cynicism, and skepticism. So, uniformity. This came in light of the whole, I guess somebody in the House or the Senate was not wearing dress code or something like that, and it was said, oh, this is really inappropriate. They were picking on a black man. He couldn't dress casually, yet there were other senators that are white that come in casually in bed pants and whatnot, and struck up this huge debate over it. And I'm like, well, you know, here's my thought. Talking about dress codes, what you're ultimately talking about is uniformity. So, from my understanding, the entire concept of uniformity is entirely man-made and does not exist beyond a man-made construct. The only time I would say this may not apply is if the uniform performs some kind of utilitarian function. Other than that, it is nothing more than a means of social control and made-up ideas of social norms that have changed periodically throughout human history. It used to be a social norm for men to wear makeup, wigs, and high heels back in the Victorian era. Now, the idea of men wearing wigs, makeup, and high heels is seen as so taboo, it has gotten some people arrested. Seems kind of intents to arrest someone over such a trivial thing, but, you know, we live in a free country, so we're not allowed to do that, because we live in a free country. That makes sense, right? Tattoos and piercings, including gauged piercings like mine, used to be so socially acceptable and normal, being that it was one of the first things humans figured out how to do, and can be observed on the frozen mummy Otzi. And I got some images here of Otzi, and I will have a link about him and his tattoos in the description. Just for reference, Otzi is about 5,300 years old. This is one of my favorite songs right here. This is Books on the Bonfire, making fun of fascists. They were used as perceived rites of passage, back to piercings and tattoos, rites of passage, and even remedies for things like arthritis. When I was young, tattoos and piercings were seen as very bad. Now they are perceived as normal, and society has been very wishy-washy on this just in my lifetime, swinging back and forth, giving everyone whiplash, really. You can't make up their mind. Is it okay? Is it not okay? I don't know. It really has. It's gone back and forth in my lifetime, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Oh, it's not okay. Now it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's okay. Now it's not okay. Males, biological males, having long hair being a bad thing is actually, because, like, you talk to, like, my grandfather, who was born in the 1920s, to him, men having long hair, well, that's just weird. His son's generation did that with the whole 60s thing. That was weird. They were breaking rules. How dare they do that, growing long hair. Men with long hair. Oh my gosh, what a crazy thing. Men having long hair being a bad thing is actually really more of a 20th century phenomena. Before that, it seems that it was not only acceptable, but very normal for men to have long hair. And I've got pictures here of men wearing long hair, or having long hair. You know, Buffalo Bill even had long hair. Look at that from the 1800s. So, you know, you got the 60s, you got the 1800s, you've got periods in history of, like, even aristocratic, noble, high class society, men having long hair. We got paintings of it. We know this exists, and I left a link about it in the description. And it's, you know, it's not an EDU, it's not an org, but you know what, if this is a concept that goes beyond you, then might I suggest that you read a history book and then go to your local art museum and look at some of the oldest artworks you can find, particularly portraits of men. And I promise you will see some of men with long hair. So, with long hair, okay, so the 60s happened, and men started to grow long hair again, and everyone freaked out, but there never seems to be any real rational reason philosophically for this. You really can't find one. You can't. You can't give me a rational reason why men should have short hair and women should have long hair, or vice versa. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not earth-shattering. It's, you know, it's just we think that's what we're supposed to do because that's what we were told to do, but there's no real solid ground that it really needs to be done, or that it's actually any relevance or importance at all. To say you have to dress well to be successful, this was a main crux point in the email. I find very strange that you have to dress as what is perceived societally acceptable or well to be successful. I think a lot of people do have a lot of judgments towards dress. That's pretty common within society, but I'm looking at it from a philosophical perspective of like, what is the reality, what is the truth, despite man's bias and tendency to interject into that by putting their dispositions upon others. Ugh. I made that myself with Torani syrup and some green tea and club soda. To say you have to dress well to be successful, well then, I must ask you to please explain Marilyn Manson. And he's only one out of countless examples of that. And I mean, really, he is one out of countless examples. You could go very, very far back into history. There's there was a philosopher, I can never remember his name. I always forget it. In the Greek Roman time, somewhere around there, more on the Greek side, but he would be pretty shaggy. He existed pretty rustic and informal. He would participate in public masturbation. He would eat like an animal. This sort of where like the whole philosophical idea, to put it in short, simplistic, on academic terms, sort of like that Alien Sex Fiend song, Wish I Was a Dog. You know, this whole thing of like this need to be posh and this concept of like, don't fart, don't burp, don't do things that are natural bodily functions or natural human behaviors, or don't wear this thing, wear this thing. Don't wear silk, wear tweed or something. I don't know. There was a philosopher that did this, pretty much made the whole Wish I Was a Dog sort of philosophy. You know, he was thought of in his time as being not dressed well. You know, you could look at other people like I had the name, like I have a face in my head, I can't think of the name, like Aleister Crowley, you know, another one. There's tons of examples. I'm not going to go through all of it. I can't do all of your homework for you. Not only does this notion of uniformity change throughout history, it changes from culture to culture. We all look at Mahatma Gandhi seriously, and he does not adhere to anything we would call normal in the Western world. You could say, oh, but his culture, wearing a robe, is professional and customary. Well, that's begging the question. A fallacy, aka circular reasoning. Because then we have to re-ask the same question, why is one thing okay and not another? So, you know, we're saying, in American, we look at a suit and tie, and we look at this, and we say, okay, why is that acceptable, but this isn't? Well, because you won't be taken seriously. Okay, we took Mahatma Gandhi seriously, and he wasn't wearing a suit and tie. Well, that's because of different culture, but then again, why is one thing okay and not another? That's circular reasoning. In logic and critical thinking, circular reasoning is called begging the question. It is a fallacy called begging the question. That is why I don't like to say it begs the question, because that's a fallacy. That's not A lot of people say that, meaning it makes you ask the question, is what they mean when they say that. That's actually the name of the fallacy, is begging the question. There's also appeal to tradition, which is a fallacy, known in logic and critical thinking as well. Just because it is something we did or did not do in the past proves nothing of its relevance. And that was another pivot point, is that back in my day, we were told how to do things so that we would be successful in society. Well, just because, people dressed in Victorian clothes back in the 1700s doesn't mean that it will set you up for success today. Because people who dressed like the Victorian-esque style, in very fashiony gothic sort of attire that we see in like Hot Topic type goths. A lot of that attire is based off of Gothic Victorian dress of the 1700s, and the people who wore that were high society. Those were aristocrats that wore those clothes. Nowadays, you're seen as weird and unprofessional and not set up for success. So yeah, appeal to tradition is a fallacy. It doesn't prove anything. Because society said so is an appeal to authority fallacy, as we have learned. Just because someone has power, authority, or even is well learned does not automatically mean they are correct. And it even still leaves us without any definitive answer. And I've seen that play out. I knew some, actually my first boyfriend, he had a very high IQ, and he would go around and, actually common misconception, blah, blah, blah. One of the things that he said is that someone said the correct thing. They said, I know daddy long legs aren't poisonous or spiders, but they still freak me out. And this boyfriend of mine said, oh, common misconception, actually they're the most poisonous spider in the world. And I knew this at the time. I tried to tell him, actually, you're wrong. According to the biology book, they're not even spiders. They're more related to ticks. They can bite you. They're not venomous. They're not spiders. They're arachnids. They're not spiders, though. They're in the tick family. They adapted those really long legs because they eat spiders. Just like a tick, they have those long legs so they can crawl on the web and then get up behind the spider and suck all the juice out of it, just like a tick does to us with sucking blood out of our leg. It has been known in philosophy, logic and critical thinking, history, archaeology, psychology, social sciences. This is something they were talking about all the way back to the Greek Empire. Now I'm going to add a discrepancy here for Cassandra's sake. When I say Greek Empire, I'm talking about archaic Greece lasting from 800 to 480 BCE, classical Greek lasting from around 499 to 323 BCE, and Hellenistic Greece lasting from 323 to 149 BCE. And I am not referring to Roman Greece lasting from 149 BCD to 600 CE. Okay. Moving on. Unless the uniform has some sort of utilitarian function like a biohazard suit, then the only real function uniformity has is social control, unquestioning social obedience, or as a mean to establish homogeny within the society. Be an individual like everyone else. So, yeah. just be an individual like everyone else, exactly like everyone else. Whatever we perceive as proper dress attire today will more than likely, much undoubtedly, be much different in the future if humanity can even survive that long. As words from Skinny Puppy, they say in their song called Colorblind, the future is never ours to see. And I will leave a link to that video with lyrics, or you can hear the song for yourself if you want to, if you're not into dark wave, sort of gothic type stuff. Give it a try, see what it's like. Open your mind like a flower in the morning, and it will only hurt for a minute. And that is a quote from Laura Krieger of Rasputina, by the way, from a live performance she did. As long as we live in a free society, God forbid, there will always be people who push the envelope of what we consider to be social norms, changing how we think and perceive such things as fashion, and then become the new norms as the old norms become odd, like the Gothic fashion. Such is the case with the Gothic fashion, which used to be the garb of those who were of aristocratic lifestyles, now is seen as unacceptable, and some even see it as scary and trashy. The truth is, what we wear does not dictate what we are or are not capable of, or how intelligent, or anything really. It doesn't really tell us much about people. Maybe that they are intelligent enough to push the envelope, I suppose. Usually it's smart people that do that, or people who change things, trendsetters. Those who look at dress or garb as being odd or unacceptable are those who think like a hive mind. They are those that you typically cannot think for themselves, or they are those who are judgmental and have not learned to see the person beyond the clothes, hairstyle, or whatever. In most cases, it is merely the fact that we, as a primate species, being a tribal animal, we are easily influenced by social norms as a primitive means to fit in, not just with the crowd, but one's tribe, as this would have led to death in our hunter-gatherer days. So if you didn't fit in with your tribe back in the hunter-gatherer days, they might have abandoned you, and you would have been left for dead. You would have died. We're sort of above and beyond that and past that. But we are long since past that. The social brainwashing begins pretty early. At that, pretty much day one, society starts putting this nonsense into our heads, trying to convince us that if we do not conform, then bad thing X, as a variable in philosophy, logic, and critical thinking, will happen. My father tried to tell me this. He seemed to acknowledge the fact that it was all a man-made structure, but told me I needed to be able to do it if I was to get anywhere in society. Being the analytical person I am, I have found it very difficult to do things that make very little to no sense at all, but yes, even I have put on a suit like a good trained little human people monkey so I could have a job and make money. I have questioned it hard, though, and continuously have asked those in power the big never-ending why question. Why is it considered a food safety hazard for a male to have long hair, specified in the paperwork, specifically hair past ear length, but not for a female, as long as she has it up in a bun or a ponytail. Shouldn't the same logic apply to males that is applied to females? What is it about males exactly that makes it a hazard over females? If they both follow the guideline of keeping their hair up so that it does not end up in the food, isn't that really the important part here? Is that the hair, as long as the hair is up so it doesn't end up in the food, isn't that really the important part? Is that their hair isn't in the food. As long as this demand is met, I fail to see the difference between a male or female having long hair other than a because someone said so appeal to authority fallacy. Because I said so is not a good reason. I hate to tell you, I don't know why I would need to inform anyone of that. That should be abundantly clear and obvious. I have made the same argument about dreadlocks. If they can have them, then I should be able to as well, because this is equality. And I have to kind of give some information on that. So when I worked in management, I wanted to have dreadlocks. I like dreadlocks. I wanted to do fun things with my hair, dye it colors, have dreadlocks, have mohawks, all kinds of stuff. They would say, no, that's not professional. We had a manager. He was a black man, and he had dreadlocks. And I said, how come he can have dreadlocks? How come that's considered professional? I asked that to the HR guy. So the regional HR guy, saw me as kind of a nightmare and a headache, because that's a loaded question. you don't want to sound like a racist, and it's like you're basically saying, oh, when a black person has dreadlocks, it's okay, but when a white person has dreadlocks, well, then it's filthy, disgusting, and unprofessional. And the truth of the matter is that it doesn't have to be filthy and disgusting. You just twist your hair and pull it into knots, and there you go. You have dreadlocks. It's easy. And I mean, you can use some beeswax and stuff like that if you need help. It's really easy. Like, the more curly your hair is, the easier it is to do. If you have curly hair, really all you have to do to get dreadlocks is just stop brushing it. Eventually it'll go into curly locks and then into dreadlocks pretty easily. But, I was just basically just trying to call it out, like, that's a double standard. Like, as long as I keep them up, as long as I keep them clean, I don't see what the big deal is. And if hierarchy is the rule, if hierarchy rules is your thing too, which the conservative family member I was talking to, it is their thing, they are into hierarchy, then get rid of the whole argument, because it's based on faulty logic and doesn't really make sense, and the person in charge of coming up with arbitrary rules is being petty. And it is petty. Why on earth can our senators and congressmen just not wear, well, like clothes like I'm wearing right now? I'm wearing bed pants and this shirt, and what's wrong with that? Why does it have to be a suit and a tie? What on earth is the purpose of a tie? A tie is so bizarre to me. This weird piece of cloth that's just dangling from your neck. I've never understood it. Like, if you're doing it to be weird and just to be different and strange, like, look at me, I have like this weird piece of cloth on my body that doesn't really have any function or form or anything really, it's just a piece of cloth hanging off of me, then that's fine. And I get that, because you want to. But who on earth looked at that and was like, this is what professional is? A tie. Ties are weird. They're very bizarre. I don't understand them at all. I know it's hard to break socially brainwashed habits, but the more you do, the more you will free your mind. As Friedrich Nietzsche said, the individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will be lonely often and sometimes frightened, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning one's self. So, philosophically, through a lens of logic and critical thinking, uniformity really doesn't make all that much sense. I know why it's there, I know why society puts it there, but if you're ever wanting to say that it's a must because of there is no continuation to that sentence, if you say, oh, it's because people did it in the past, that's appeal to tradition. That's a fallacy. That doesn't add validity to why we do it. If you want to say, well, because it's professional, it's, then you get to the circular reasoning. Why is that okay and that's not okay? We had Gandhi, and why is that okay, but that the other thing is not okay? Then you just get locked in this perpetual loop of, begging the question. Because you'll be successful. Well, that's because that's what we're told, but that doesn't. There's people that are successful that don't follow the guidelines. So, again, does it make sense? Look at Albert Einstein's hair. There's no real rational reason to say that particular dress or fashion has to be a particular way. Not a whole lot of sense to it. And even the idea of a suit and a tie, again, that something that came around in somewhere in the 19th century, like in the 1800s, probably around mid to late 1800s, and then carried on through the 20th century, the 1900s, and then now we're in the 21st century, and we're still claiming, like, oh, a suit and a tie is proper attire. Well, the suit and the tie thing, what we're considering to be professional and appropriate wear today, well, it didn't always exist. So, just to reiterate, from a philosophical, logic, and critical thinking perspective, there really is no valid reason for uniformity other than, somebody's just trying to create unquestioning social obedience, like just to reaffirm and reestablish that people are doing what they're told. And if somebody can't follow something as arbitrary as a dress guideline within society, then the thought process is that they're probably going to be a problem to society or to the authoritative person or group of people that like to tell everyone else in the society what to do. because that person is probably willing to push the envelope on what is societally acceptable and considered norm and say these things we're told are the norm, but they don't have to be. It is a man-made construct. You don't have to like it, and if you don't like it, you could scream until you're blue in the face. The reality is uniformity is a man-made construct, and that just may have to be an uncomfortable truth for you if you don't like it. Although I'm sure most of the people in my audience will understand. Anyway, I'm going to call that done. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and bell button, blah, 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 blah. I'm out. Or just out. Out.